All right, welcome everyone. We're having to hold Rene back from jumping right in on the interview. It is, welcome, June 1st, 2020. This is the Institute of Interpersonal Hypnotherapy. I'm Matthew Brownstein, the founder and lead instructor of the whole institute, and I'm here with Rene Brent, our beloved Orlando director and the lead instructor of that location. Tonight is an interview. And we'll just feel free to ask your questions to Rene, and let me introduce her briefly before she jumps right in. Rene graduated, around 2012? And then runs a very successful hypnotherapy practice. She's 30 years now of a registered nurse. Is that correct? 30 years now? Yeah, author of 2 books, I believe. I know one is called How Big Is Your Butt, which we'll have you talk about. And then Rene leads workshops, and she can tell us, and a lot of really good addiction work as well in the field. So while we're just getting ready to start, I said I wore my white shirt. I usually been wearing blue lately. I was like, I'm going to wear white and black to match Rene's awesome hair. And so he was just telling us about that. So let's start with the cool hair.
Excellent. Well, hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. I think the last time I was on this show was really when I first started practicing. About maybe 7 years ago. So it's happy to make that spin around and the changes that have happened. A lot of questions I get when I start interviews or when I do this work is this hair real? And it is. And it showed up for me about 3 years ago, and I have a lot of gray that I color, but this will not take color at all. And my hairdresser calls it my spiritual stripe. And I will totally accept that because it showed up in my life when I really opened my heart and really accepted the work and understood the changes when I shifted and opened up what that meant for my clients in the work that I'm doing. So I wear this stripe very proudly, and I know what it means for me and the work that I do in hypnotherapy.
That's awesome. Thanks, Rene. I didn't know what order we would start in. Yeah, my first talking point on my notes were to possibly ask you about spirituality in relationship to hypnotherapy, because that's really what moves me to do the work. For me, the ability to tap into, in meditation, or whatever we get there, to the love, the peace, the joy, the bliss that's inside of all of us, and the depth of that. So I wonder if you'd like to start there, talking to us about perhaps what spirituality, because you mentioned it, means to you, and how that relates to hypnotherapy practice.
Very interesting. So I know Matthew this, and feel free if you have any questions about this. When I started hypnotherapy, I was completely in science, and this is my perspective of the world. Didn't really understand about spirit or guides or anything like this. Wasn't in my framework of my life. I was a conservative Jew, and I had God in my life, but I didn't really understand the connection. And I started doing this work, and I worked with Matthew, as all students should, work with someone to do their own work while in school. So you can, there's a saying, you can only take clients as far as you are. And I had some work to do from my childhood, that's for sure. And in the work that I did in the school and with Matthew privately, really what I would say, I tell my clients now that I went from a closed heart to an open heart. And in that perspective for me, and Matthew says this as well, you might have heard him, is that when you close your heart, it's really a protection. We don't cry all our tears. We feel a little bit safer, and but we don't laugh all our laughter. We don't feel all our pain. And I definitely did this from my childhood, from an alcoholic mom and some chaos in my life growing up. So for me to move from a closed heart through the process of going to the Institute of Interpersonal Hypnotherapy and open my heart, it was a phenomenal experience for me, and it continues to grow. And I just wrote something about spirituality, and for me, I did a workshop for a religious group, and they were having a Shavuot, which is a Jewish group. And Shavuot, we received the Torah. And I was honored to be asked to do a meditation and talk about it. For me, spirituality really is just connection to something outside of our human experience. And I was really honored to be able to talk about this just a few days ago, and on Thursday. So I'm glad we're talking about it, because it really is about connecting. And when you're in an altered brainwave, which was what prayer is, or anything is, right, is just getting outside of our experience in this altered brainwave that's when we connect. That's when we open up. And that's when we know we're not alone. There's something more, and there are answers to what we're struggling with outside of this. So yeah, spirituality has been a big part of my experience in the last 8 years in hypnotherapy, and I'm grateful
Yeah.
for it every day.
I'm grateful to hear you saying that. I've been curious, as I know you're Jewish, or I think converted Jewish. You're not like one of us who were
Right.
born lucky.
Yeah, I got to choose it. Yeah.
How has, because I know some students, usually in Judeo-Christian perspective, might have some issues about hypnosis, hypnotherapy. Does the religion, would their religion conflict with the spirituality or this open of the heart, the deepening of connection? What if you can speak to, was there any conflict about religion and I guess what we would call spirituality, that the way it comes through the school here?
Sure. Not so much in Judaism, I don't think. Orthodox Jews, there's a whole sect that are very spiritual. There are even some rabbis and even their wives who read the Akashic records, that sort of thing, in the faith. And so no, not so much. It was very interesting that I tend to attract
Rene froze.
very religious Christians in my practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah,
So I very religious Christians in my office, and I think one of my strengths in this work is that I can break things down in a very analytical, structured way for people that makes sense to them. I use a lot of analogies, but also I help them understand what hypnosis is, change in a brainwave, and what it isn't. I'm not woo-woo. I tell people I'm woo, right? I live in both worlds. I live in science and this metaphysical spiritual world. So it's very important for me to help fundamentalist Christians, which I get, and they send their people, because I just help them understand it's God gave us these brain waves. We learn to connect. Prayer is a part of that. When we pray, the cadence of prayer, the movement of prayer, the rhythms, the songs, is all about connecting to something outside of us. Even speaking in tongues is really just about coming outside, and we do that in an altered brainwave. So I love it when fundamentalist Christians come to me, or they ask me questions in a format like this. I do a lot of this kind of work. And I love talking to them about it because I want them to understand the power of it. And it's just another gift from God in their perspective.
Absolutely. Thank you. It's so important to me, again, spirituality being really the essence of all the work, that somebody who is religious who wouldn't be open to this, like, oh my God, you're missing something so valuable, or somebody who's very science-minded, like you said, who might not be as open to this, right? You're a nurse, and you said when you started, it's kind of closed heart, more science, and now would you say it's more of a balance between science and the spirituality, or the deeper work that we do, or is it just realizing we're all saying the same thing, perhaps just from different perspectives?
We are all saying the same perspective. And even my religious perspective has changed in the sense that I believe personally, in my humble opinion, that it's this framework of spirituality is all one gift for all of us. And then humans attach ritual and perception of that, right? That's theology is about. But once you get into that state in prayer or hypnosis or meditation, then we all connect to the same source. And I kind of find balance, and I'm very good at reading my clients and how far I can go with it and not. And after you do this work for a while, it's really fun because then you get to read people and you understand. Now that I'm more open, I read energy. I understand that I'm an empath, which I didn't know before I started this school. And so that's a lot of fun to be able to really be present with my clients or whoever I'm speaking to exchange and read and know kind of which way to explain, or even which path to go to in protocol for hypnotherapy.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because it was kind of my talking point notes in front of me was possibly going to intuition with you. And wonder if you can elaborate on what's it like when you're sitting with a client, right? You're connecting with another human, spiritual being, having a human experience, who's usually suffering, right? You come to you because something's wrong, physical,
Yes.
mental, emotional, behavioral. And of course, we have techniques to help them. We have who we are. And yet there's this deeper sense of who we are, where we can feel what they feel. We can have words of wisdom pop into our mind before it even comes out. So talk to us, if you could, talk to us more. What is that like for you when you're sitting with someone and this other level of you is activated?
Of course. It's fun for me to talk about this. And I used to be a little bit afraid of it and I didn't understand it. I'm going to start that question with an experience that I had doing something called breath work. And breath is just breathing and hyper-oxygenating, and really get into, which I love. Breath work's my motive of, I love breath work, and I do it often. But I was in breath work and I didn't believe in guides. I didn't think I had one. But my entire life, I would hide in a closet. And I would tell myself, even a young child, I remember at 5, even younger than that, just rocking and telling myself, it's okay, it's not you, it's them. There was such an innate experience with me in my life that I understood that I just had to get through this part of my life and know that this is not me, this is not who I am, but I just had to move through it, and I had to be patient. So I always felt like I was guided somehow, but I thought it was, in my perception, was God. And I'm in breath work one day, and I'm 5 of 6 children. So there was a lot of chaos and a lot of alcoholism going on by the time I entered this world, and a lot of neglect. And in breath work, I saw myself as a baby in a crib, with the old wood crib, and I could look up, I can still see it like I was just right there with me. And I saw the framework, and I would cry, and then faces would come, my little brothers and sisters, and they'd throw me something, or they'd throw me food or a bottle or something. And then they would go away, and I'm crying because I want people to come to me. And in this breath work, in this experience that I had, I looked to my side, and there was this beautiful woman, and she had white hair, and she looked at me and she said, "It's okay. It's not you, it's them." And I understood in that moment, Matthew, that I always had her by my side, and I was being guided by her. When I was rocking, it was because her arms were around me. And when I am stuck in it with a client, or I have challenges, or I'm in my own way, I breathe, I relax, I drop myself into a trance, and I connect to her, because she's always guided me, and she's always been there, and she's going to help me feel that and sense that. And it works every time. And sometimes as hypnotherapists, we just have to get out of our own way to be able to let that experience come through for our clients.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, especially if you're coming from closed heart, scientific, maybe even just a hardcore religious perspective. The idea that there's a spirit guide, a beautiful, we said, like blonde hair, is that what we said?
Yeah.
Blonde, yeah, like just off to your side, who's right there. Who can give you knowledge, wisdom. I always teach in our school, if you get in that moment where you don't know what to do, you don't know what to say, just stop, tell the client, let's just take a moment, let's close our eyes, take a breath. And then, I'll just ask internally. I don't necessarily feel an individual presence, but I definitely sense a universal presence. And I'll just say, all right, God, what do I say? What do I do? The answer is always there. It's never not been there. And
it's always there. And when I released the fear, of that, it opened up. And I went to, I have a middle daughter who's she's what I call her the hippie. She's really a free spirit, and this work and spirituality has really helped her move through a lot of challenges. And she went to go get her Akashic records by an Orthodox woman in Boca. So I was like, I'll go. And I did a session, and I was like, I've never had my records. And the woman, I said, I think I have a guide. And she started laughing. And she said, oh dear, you have many, many guides.
Nice. Beautiful. I teach a lot of astral projection, out of body stuff in my work. And my experience early on, my early 20s, was as the veils of what seemed so physical start to drop away. And I'll be lying in bed or sitting in meditation, and there's other beings there, multiple dimensions appear to occupy the same space. We're nowhere near as alone as we thought. So I love that. Like, there's so many guides. Yeah.
Nice. I remember doing breath work in school, when we were in school, and I had a big breakthrough. And then the next week I had to text you, because every morning when I opened my eyes, I felt this, like I was on a roller coaster, and this rush of energy just moving through me. And I'm like, Matthew, what do I do this? Now I understand. It's because I was closed, and it really opened up, and I was just feeling energy move through me. And I think I was probably always have been out and about when I sleep, and then was coming back in. It kind of felt like that, like a connection into my body. So it's very interesting. And as I move through that with my own clients, I get many clients who feel surges in the morning, the energy come through there, but they translate that as anxiety.
Uh-huh.
So one of the things that I tell them is to consider it like your engine, any engine in a car starting up, that there's energy and there's a rumbling, and all you have to do is just breathe through it and allow that energy to, and this is what I started doing even 8 years ago when it started happening to me, is close my eyes, breathe, and imagine the energy just moving through my entire body like a glove, out my fingers and down through and out my toes. And that helps everything settle in. And that technique really helps my clients. Now they see it as a surge of energy and not waking up with anxiety. And it helps them change their perception of that.
It's awesome. And you don't feel that stuff when your heart is closed or when you're afraid of what can move through you. I love whenever I get a email from you on the bottom, it says practice happy. At least it used to, I don't know if it still does. And I was like, Renee's, it's like Renee's tagline. And so can you talk to us about what does practice happy mean to you? And how does that relate to not suppressing emotion, right? There's anxiety, there's anger, there's fear, yet practice happy. How does that work?
Well, I think and this is one of the things when I was writing my book, How Big Is Your Butt, BUT, was that understanding through this work in neuroscience and the science part of me is that happiness isn't one size fit all. And we can't kind of pin that on our clients. Your sense of happy is not going to be the same as your clients. And we have to practice that state. It's something that we connect to on a spiritual sense, but also neurological. Our neurons practice to that perception. So for me, practice happy is really having a goal each day to see what happy means. It makes you be very present in your life. I don't really like the word mindful because it says a lot of, people don't really know what that means. For me, it's just pause and be present. So when you're practicing the state of happy, you have to be present to what that means for you in that moment or in that day. So practice happy is really hitting all cylinders, the heart, the mind, the neurons, the energy, all of it. And when you keep practicing it, you'll create it.
Yeah, I love it. And as you're talking about like energy moving down, I'm starting our class talking more about the spiritual side, and then kind of moving into more the mental, emotional side with practice happy. And then, like you're saying, it manifests into all other aspects of our life. So I know you've had some major miracles going through the school, and the two that stand out for me, I love to hear about both, are maybe you got married since then, so your current husband, David.
Well, I'm engaged. We haven't officially got married because of, some other stuff like in, past marriage stuff. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. Well, I still love to hear about the miracle of attracting your wonderful man into your life. And also one of your daughters had one of those type of miracles related to our training. So yeah, when you're opening your heart, you're welcoming in divine energy, your intuition, your spirit guides, your open heart, transforming negative emotion, practice happy. I was teaching last night in our meditation group that if you just open your heart and clear your blocks and prioritize that, your life, and I made a promise, I said, on Sunday nights, this isn't a state licensed hypnotherapy school, so I can promise things. And I can promise when you clear your insides, the outside gets better. And you're such a beautiful example of, for you and those around you, manifesting more beautiful relationships. So let's hear about David and about one of your daughters.
For sure. And so I'll start with my own personal story. When I came into hypnotherapy, it was, I had been divorced from a 20-year marriage. And I was struggling a little bit, and it kind of affected me and my ability. It kind of pushed me out of my nest, so to speak, which to this day I'm so grateful for, because I wouldn't have the life that I live. We wouldn't be doing hypnotherapy if it hadn't happened. But my ex-husband was marrying his girlfriend that ended the marriage. And I decided, and it was on my birthday weekend. So I'm like, all right, I'm not going to be angry. I'm taking myself to British Columbia. I'm going to hike, and I'm going to the spa. And it was meditation in the morning and healthy food and stretching and hiking for 4 hours in this beautiful mountains. Fabulous, right? And I'm sitting on a lunch by myself, and I'm sitting at this edge, and the stream, you can imagine, it was just a spring that was just water was just rushing down, so much energy and so much life. And it was coming around a bend, and at the bend, the water hit this peninsula, and it was going one way or going the other. And I'm sitting there and spray's coming at me. And I, without even knowing it, was in a meditative state. And I heard in my heart that I was going to have a new career and I was going to write a book. And I was like, well, okay. And I knew that I could go this way or I could go this way. And I knew that I had a choice in what I was going to choose in my life. So I knew that I was going to be very mindful and choose and pay attention. That went on. I'm looking for these signs. A few months later, I'm on a treadmill and I don't even have the earbuds in, but and on the camera of the TV, it says hypnotherapist. And I was like a lightning bolt, Matthew, hit me. And it was like, you're supposed to be a hypnotherapist. Mm. And I went and found the school, et cetera, long story. But I went into hypnotherapy with a closed heart and a kind of an injured heart. And I was just trying to figure out what I was supposed to do. And I started doing my work with you. And I was dating, but the guys I was dating were not really good. They weren't good for me. I was having a lot of fun, but they weren't great. And you said, Rene, why don't you just stop dating for a while? And let's just, because we only attract what we believe in ourselves. Mm-hmm. And I knew at this point that my belief about myself from my childhood was unwanted, unlovable, and not good enough. Mm-hmm. And so you helped me with that, and we did some work. And I was
yeah.
Hold on. You got it?
Yeah,
okay.
Better.
There you go. Thank you. Sorry. About 6 sessions in, you said, Rene, I think that you're ready. I think you're ready to start dating. And I went online and there was this quirky guy, but I had done my own work. And I always I think I told you and I told my friends, when I find my guy, he's just going to come and find me and he's going to say, where have you been? I've been waiting for you. I knew it was going to be that easy. And I went on my first date with David and I walk in and he hugs me and he whispers in my ear and he says, where have you been? I've been waiting for you. And I knew in that moment that he was meant for me and I was meant for him. And the only reason I was ready for someone like him was because I had done this work. And I was so grateful. And we're like 7.5 years later and it's amazing. And he is, one of the things he's taught me, really taught me, I was a caregiver. I was a nurse. I was always caring for my brothers and sisters. I was, doing this work, and it felt safe to be outside of myself and to be the helper, right? And I attract a lot of clients like this, especially women who want to take care of everyone else. But my David, when he met me straight away, helped me open my heart even more because he helped me understand that when you let someone in to help you, to receive, that there's such strength and growth that comes from that. And that's the blessing that came from hypnotherapy school and the work that I did with you.
Yeah, so spiritually attuned, emotionally open, beautiful relationship. Let's hear about your daughter's story real quick. Yeah.
And I'm going to finish that story with at graduation day. David comes to me at graduation and he watches David and he watches us interact. And he came up to me later, Matthew, I don't know if you remember that. And you said, great manifesting, Rene.
Yeah. I don't remember the words, but I remember meeting David. I was like, what a beautiful being. Just wow, you did find it really well, manifestor, attractive. Yeah, really good one. So good job.
So my daughter Elise, my middle daughter Elise, she struggled and she came out and was aware that she was gay. So no big deal, no problem. She said, Mom, I think I'm gay. I'm like, okay, now what do you want to drink for dinner? Like, it was like kind of that easy. And I think it was a few months later, maybe 6 months later, I went to teach in Tampa. And there was this beautiful Brazilian girl there. And she was young, in her 20s, like my daughter. And I heard her tell her classmates something about being gay. And I'm like, I'm a Jewish mother. And I'm like, oh, I go, and I said to her flippantly, I said, my daughter's gay. I think you guys would make a great couple, but she's in LA and you're going back to Brazil when you're done with school. So, oh, well. So little did I know that Vanessa had Googled my daughter, of course, and saw that she was beautiful and, all this kind of stuff. But I thought she was going back. I went to Joe Dispenza with Miss Danny Fox, who's here tonight, and we were in a 4-hour meditation, and I kept hearing, you must take the daughters to Tampa for Joe Dispenza. So I'm like, oh, really? Because I'm just here, and that's like in 5 weeks, and that's a lot of money. So yep. So I just kept getting hit by it. And I was like, all right, I'm at this point, open heart, I'm trusting. I invite my daughters. And the first weekend was for beginners. I had already been, so I sent them. And on Friday night, my daughters call me and they go, hey, Mom, do you know this girl named Vanessa? She said you were her teacher. And I was like, you've got to be kidding. Apparently, Vanessa stayed in the country because she wanted to go to Joe Dispenza. She got there late. There were only a few seats left. She sat next to my Elise. She recognized her. She said, hey, are you Rene Brent's daughter? And she goes, yes. Well, they hit it off and they dated for almost 3 years, and they're not together anymore, but they learned, they grew, and it was a fabulous story. And it was because I went to teach at the school, and my daughter found a love who taught her how to open her heart. And again, very grateful to the school.
Yeah, I love hearing that. And so thank you. When we first started this school, when I first started, I was, what was that, about 12 years ago. And it was just me. I didn't have wonderful staff members like you at the time. It was just me and a group of 25 people. And I knew all the blessings that would happen for all of them and everyone in their life. What I didn't really expect, I saw with clients, but I never really saw with students, they start growing so fast that all the old patterns, the low self-esteem, the willingness to be abused and just be part of a mediocre, really crummy life, they start realizing I deserve so much more, I want so much more. They start prioritizing their mental, emotional health, their spiritual health, their physical health, they're eating better, exercising, they want to make more money, be financially free, independent. So they're vibrating higher, higher, higher. Now their spouse is like one of two things tend to happen. Like when yin and yang, or yin and yin, can't harmonize, then they tend to separate. And I saw that happen in our first graduating class with 2 people. There were actually 2 divorces that happened from the first class. Like, I didn't get into this to create divorce. I didn't create divorce, right? But I don't want anything that seems negative coming out of the school. Yet, so I want to hear your thoughts, because you've trained a lot of our students now. You've seen God knows how many clients at this point. What it's like when somebody starts vibrating higher, higher. Does the other person tend to catch up and it harmonizes and they live happily ever after? Or do you see that sometimes relationships do have to end because we're just taking people to such great heights, they're not willing to tolerate the lows that they were in with our other relationship?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. For a time period, and in this work, if you do this work long enough, you see that there are waves of commonality with people that come through. For whatever reasons, the universe sends it to you. And I did get people who were on the verge of divorce. I tell people I don't do couples counseling, but I did create, because of this, if I was working with one, the other, I developed a option for my clients if they wanted to work together, where I do one session with them together, just to talk about the work and education mostly, and then do a nice meditation. Then they do 2 sessions individually, and then we come back again to do another one. And some do more and some do not. But that couples kind of hypnotherapy has helped people grow together. I had a young couple who were divorcing, and they really just wanted to come in and do past life regression. I go, I'd love to do that, but let's do some this life regression. Nice. And we did that, and they just had their second baby. They just sent me a picture of their second baby. They just had her like 3 months ago. So people have come together. On the other side of that, I do a lot of addiction work, which you mentioned at the front end of this. So when my addicts, men and women, start to vibrate differently and understand their value, they're like, man, you really need to help my spouse.
Yeah.
And I tell them, if you bring your spouse to me, they may divorce you. I let them know, because who you are and who you were, they may have fallen out of love with you in that process of addiction. So I have brought, and some have divorced and some haven't. But I have to tell you, the people who have divorced, and during COVID, I've had several people who were right on the verge of divorce are filed for divorce after COVID, because you just, the cracks you just saw through their isolation together. But right now, a lot of them are surviving and they're moving through it. And if they both do their work simultaneously, individually, then I think that they find a new way to communicate and they vibrate. Sometimes they make it, sometimes they don't. But again, as hypnotherapists, we don't take that on. We know that that's their journey. Just like my journey with 20 years with my first guy, whose also name was David, by the way. And I recommend, if you're going to fall in love with two men in a lifetime, that they have the same name. It really does help make things easier. But it comes and goes with people. But I have to tell you, I love working with people who just recently got divorced. I call that life after divorce work. And just like you did with me, helping me understand my value and who I was attracting. It's so fun to see people meet their mate. And I always share my story with them.
Yeah, I love your story, and thanks for sharing about that. Yeah, I only want goodness to come for people, and sometimes they have to go through the dark night or lose something they thought was valuable to eventually find what they're really looking for.
Yeah.
So you mentioned COVID. Obviously, our world is different now, and a lot of us are having to go to online hypnotherapy sessions, right? Just keep seeing clients. We've had to postpone our in-house practical hours. We want to get our students back in Orlando to train with you as soon as possible, and in all of our locations. So I started doing a lot more online classes, and I'm seeing online clients now. And I resisted it because I know what it's like to hug a client, to move them through when they're in my office. It's always been a very sacred experience and very rewarding. And now that I'm doing online clients, we had our interview with Tampa director Danny Fox, and she was saying, the online sessions are great. And I'm seeing the online sessions are great. I haven't had one negative or limited online session since I started that, maybe just a couple months ago. So what's been your experience of living in the new COVID times, and specifically, of course, with hypnotherapy? And I'm also curious, so one, what's it like doing online sessions, or what's it like just being a hypnotherapist now during this time? And then the other, how important is it that we keep, because I know when we talked about postponing practicals for a little while, one of your comments in our communications was, we need to get these people out there as quickly as possible. So I'm curious your thoughts about hypnotherapists and our role right now, how important it is to get out there and help to heal the world.
Well, it's so important. I normally, before COVID, saw about 14 clients. I do 2-hour sessions, and that was comfortable for me, 14. And during COVID, I went down to about 8 or 9. I was very lucky that I had that. And we can talk about that later, about why I believe that happened. And now, since I had this pause and finishing up my second book, I'm like, you know what? I kind of like having 11 to 12 clients. I like having a little bit of extra time in the week. So I am already seeing full up now, 3 weeks booked out until almost the end of June. So there is a need. People are looking, people are Googling, they understand through COVID, because we primarily, as human beings in this experience, unless you've done some of this work, live on chaos and noise. And that wasn't really, we were in quiet, we were in pause. So everything had the opportunity to rumble up at people. And there wasn't any distraction besides eating or over drinking. And I'm dealing with people with that right now, right? But they understand, I can't live this way anymore. I can't live this way anymore, and I have to make changes. So I have been very busy. I have, during COVID, saw a couple of clients that I know very well who have isolated, I screened, who did come in-house with me. But I've done Zoom or Skype sessions for years, really since we started, since my book, for sure, my first book, because I got an international audience. So when I tell people I'm an international whatever, it's not a big deal. It just means that I work really crazy hours sometimes, right? But
we lost your audio again.
Yeah, I'm right here again. You there?
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with that. I apologize.
Okay.
So Zoom is fantastic. It's very interesting. I had a guy I was working with on addiction, and he was a Alaskan fisherman, and all his family was home. So we did a session on Zoom on his Alaskan boat.
Mhm.
And it was fabulous. It was fabulous. I could see that he was kind of moving around a little bit. He was a dock, but it was a little bit of a busy day.
Mm.
So I utilized the waves with every wave that you feel, every noise, and we had a great session. So for me, COVID has really allowed me to amplify and improve. I've been very thankful for that. I'm sorry.
Mm.
A second. Did you get me?
Almost. Just repeat the whole next part.
So sorry. I'm going to just take care of that right now.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. All right. That should take care of that. Got me?
Yeah, good. Thanks.
Okay. So online has helped me do that. Now, I see in-house clients again. I am doing that. But again, they're screening. I happen to have a very nice big room. So my hypno chair that used to be next to me, I moved it 6 feet away. My couch is on the other side. They come in a side entrance, that sort of thing. I take precautions. I have, hand sanitizer, but they don't wear a mask. That's my comfort level in this. And I do screen them very heavily, and my nursing background helps me do that, to ask questions. But I love Zoom, and I think that people get what they need within Zoom, because if you teach ahead of it, which we are very prepared to do education going through the school. If you pre-talk is really about education and what their experience, and that they don't have to be very deep. You don't have to be very deep in a different brainwave. A light alpha brainwave will get you right to the subconscious mind to access what you need to for change. So when you spend time on the front end of that, preparing your clients and teaching your clients, then you're going to have a successful experience on Zoom or in-house. And that's what I love about the protocol, especially in the first part of our school, is that you spend a lot of energy and time teaching people rapport building and interview and comfort level. We spend a lot of time doing that, and it's so important, especially when you're doing online work.
Yeah, so it's wonderful to hear you're finding a way to get people back into the physical office. So doing the online work, obviously, internationally, getting your books out there, so reaching out to the whole world. So yeah, let's go into the topic. My other question for you is the importance of getting hypnotherapists out there, right? Or some of our enrolled students, right, are patiently waiting to get in for practicals.
Yes.
Once we can find the way to do it as safe as possible, we all feel good about that. So yeah, what are your thoughts about this? We need our doctors and our nurses, our frontline workers out there. But I believe there's a really important place for hypnotherapists during this time.
There is, and it's so exciting because the research in neuroscience, the research in genetics, epigenetics, and is mainstreaming what we're doing, which is really exciting. And I really love to, and I know Danny as well loves neuroscience and looking at this perspective of it, just so we can help. They don't have to understand that it's really, spirit. They don't have to understand that. But if you explain it in science, right, it's fantastic. But yes, there's a place for it, and it's becoming more mainstream every day. And we need qualified people out there. I travel all over the country speaking, and I meet a lot of other hypnotherapists. And what I understand from that work, and it's not putting down their programs, it's really understanding that many of them have had to piecemeal their parts therapy or the regression or NLP. They've had to take it apart so they can start being a hypnotherapist without this full complexity of being anything that comes in my office I can manage. So they have to put it together in this way, and there's stress and they feel worried about it. And this is what I love about the program, and this is why I am so involved with the school, is because it really is a dynamic, full experience for anyone. I am so comfortable from day one that anybody that walks into my office, that I'm going to be able to manage what's showing up for them, and they're going to leave feeling better than they did. So we need qualified hypnotherapists out there, and we need people who have that, well-rounded experience and know how to interview, know how to do marketing, know how to do all of these things. Yes, let's get them out there quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Today was our Department of Education license renewal meeting, and of course we passed. It used to be huge room, 2 days, colleges, universities, attorneys, our schools like ours, career schools, and So I went through that. It was all done online now. And it's a lot of work. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of effort. And I checked the agenda, and there's still no other licensed hypnotherapy schools. Uh, so I appreciate you mentioning not to put down other programs, yet we have really high standards, very comprehensive training. When I hear you, of course, I want to talk about your business success and give tips for people coming up pretty soon for success. You have to talk about the importance of state license training, at least 500 hours of really comprehensive curriculum, because we hear about these weekend workshops, and the title hypnotherapist isn't well regulated. You can go out there and you don't even have to have a certification or anything really to call yourself a hypnotherapist. There's nobody really policing that. So we have people who do 50, 100 hours, maybe 200 hours, but like you said, they don't have all the pieces of the puzzle to truly help someone. And my personal thing, and that, is the importance of state license education, because if you just train someone in this profession, especially online, my concern is people are just putting up a shingle saying, I'm a hypnotherapy school. It is actually illegal, right? Because it's a federally acknowledged occupation. The Department of Education, if they knew about it, would absolutely grant the cease and desist order, but they can't keep up with all that. So all I know that we can do, and I don't want to be the guy reporting non-licensed activity, and a lot of people have gone through trainings and they think they went through a hypnotherapy school, but if it's not licensed by the Department of Education, it's not actually a legitimate school, but it's not actually a real diploma. So all we can do is just educate the public about that, right? I'm not going to be reporting all the illegal unlicensed activity. I wonder what your thoughts have been about, especially because you've been around the block now, seeing the difference between state licensed hypnotherapy education, 500 plus hours, versus, maybe a weekend workshop or something.
There is a difference. I do tend to, when I speak or I meet people in hypnotherapy outside of this area, I do mentor them, and I'm working with interesting enough, a 72-year-old woman out of Texas right now, who wants to work with my addiction work, and she wants to see addicts. But understanding that when I'm mentoring people who haven't gone to our school, that some of the things that I'm doing or the protocol that I have is beyond their capabilities. So I have to adapt it. And it's very interesting. Now, I learn something from everyone that I meet, for sure, and I love their perspective of it. But I do like the complexity and having a state licensed school. Now, I think that we don't have to turn people in, because people will understand. If you have I can't tell you how many people. I'm in Orlando. There is a certain pretty fantastic marketing hypnotherapy practice here, clinic, that is, they train the hypnotherapist on a weekend. He trains people to come in, and then he charges the same amount if he was doing it to have this person who just trained with him for a weekend. Two of those hypnotherapists, those people who wanted to learn hypnosis, they called me to talk to me about hypnosis and if they wanted to rent a room. And I just couldn't do it because they didn't have the standards of which we do.
Yeah.
But a lot of people who went there left a lot of money on the table. They would buy packages and they left a lot of money on the table. They would feel very uncomfortable. And then they were like, you know what, I need to do this again. And I have to tell you, on my website, very subtly, I talk about the 500 hours. It makes a difference for people. And they come to me and they're like, wow, this isn't anything like I experienced before. I've been working on this issue for a long time, and I never really got at it from this perspective before. And that's a big compliment, and that's a big compliment of this work and the school. So I trust that it doesn't matter. The people are going to find their way to a good qualified hypnotherapist in that sense. Without, I mean snobby, but it's just, there is a difference.
Yeah, certainly. I put dedicated basically my whole life to this work. Now, when I hear these stories about a weekend and then somebody seeing clients, it just makes the occupational title hypnotherapist, which I'm very proud of. Like, I want us to feel like you're not some used car salesman, you're not just a lay hypnotist, right? You are a certified clinical hypnotherapist. That's one of the diplomas that we offer. And yeah, I would like anyone in the public to feel if you go to a hypnotherapist, that's the quality you're getting. And unfortunately, it's just not the case. Yet either way, shifting the topic because that's not my happiest topic. So we'll practice happy. uh, I love, so we talk about like the spirituality, the mental, emotional health, relationships, we talk about physical health. I really would love to talk about your success and other graduates like you who have, like we checked, last night checked with you, tell us how much you make, but I know you've done over 6 figures. I believe last I heard you're driving a Tesla, good for you. And so, and you're on a waiting list. So let's start to help our graduates, anybody who's going through this type of training.
Yeah.
Let's talk about success and marketing tips and maybe just the mindset first, right? Like, obviously, you have the same training as our graduates, and not every graduate, right, is thriving, but you're thriving. I know you use that word, right? Like thriving.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what does it take? What's the mental attitude to thrive, to be doing over 6 figures, or doing 6 figures in that range, and driving a luxury car, nice environmentally friendly luxury car, and being on a waiting list. So what's the mental attitude required for that kind of success?
Well, first of all, one thing that you told us in the very beginning was buy a website, if you want a professional office, get it and plan for it. And I think I don't remember when we graduated, the month, but maybe Danny can submit. And this is when anyone has any questions about the practice part of this. If you're interested, I'd be happy to answer any questions. April 1st was an important date for me because that's when my husband came home, woke me up from a nap and told me that blah, 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 our marriage is over. So I thought it was an April Fool's joke. I was shocked. Like, it's just like, what the heck? So for me, I wanted to reframe April 1st for me. So I opened my practice on April 1st. It was just very quickly when we graduated. I think it was mid-March. Yes, thank you. And April 1, we opened our practice. Yes, Danny, thank you. She did too as well. And I opened my practice. I had a space and I manifested this great space for myself across the hall from where I'm at now and in the same building. And I just knew. And when you used to talk about, what is it? Psychic marketing. I would you couldn't see me, but I would roll my eyes, Matthew. I was like, oh God, what does that mean? Psychic, but really it is just about believing in yourself. And I used to go to work every day and I had some clients, but I would write in my calendar, new client here, new client here, new client here. And I started booking and I started seeing clients just from the very get-go because I didn't have any other options. This is what I was doing. And I believed in it. And I did my own work. When I didn't have a client in the chair, I would get in the chair and do my own meditation. So it was really about belief. And I grew and grew. And eventually I rented the whole suite across the way. And a couple years into that, you said, do you think you would be interested, Rene, in teaching for Orlando? And the space across the way, which is a huge space, a big room, a patio, etc., which was almost 3 times more the rent across the hallway. And I said, yes, I'll do it. And I didn't even know if I was going to get students. I rented the space across the way and I moved in. And now I have 4 people that rent from me that pay most of my rent. I teach from that space. I do workshops from that space. And I've been 6 figures and, booked out at least 2 weeks for many, many years. And that's a real blessing for me. And I believed in it. And I'm shocked sometimes and in gratitude for it. But let me tell you about the Tesla. So I saw the Tesla. I had a friend who had a Tesla and I wanted one so badly, but I would never spend the money. And I was manifesting it and I had this vision of a red Tesla. I was looking at it from above and I saw myself through an open sunroof, red Tesla, beautiful, just driving. I was like, oh, that's my car. And 2 days later, I go on Facebook and a friend that I knew, her husband was selling a red Tesla. And I was like, used 90,000 miles, half price. I was like, what? I went and I was like, let me see if my business can support this. How great would it be if my work that I do with people would help me manifest this? And I went to the bank and they go, of course, didn't you know we sent you a thing a few months ago that we had this $100,000 blah, 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 waiting for you. And I got the loan and I love the car. And every day when I get in it, it says Rene's dream car. Because it is my dream car. It's my dream car. It's my dream job. It's my dream life. And And starting hypnotherapy school, it sounds corny, I absolutely mean this with all of my heart, led me to all the states that I am. And the work that I did and the growth that I did helped my children grow and learn that you can get through difficulties, you can change your beliefs about yourself, and it's all the work that we do within. So yeah, I drive and I work, and I have the best seat in the house in my job. I love it.
There's nothing, thank you, Renee. There's nothing more rewarding for me than hearing these stories, because you and I don't talk that much. I totally trust you. You train our students. We don't even have to check in. I just know Renee's got them and our staff there's got them. Like, we're good. Yeah, I hear little things. Like someone's like, Renee's driving a Tesla now. And so when I hear about, the opening the heart, the spirituality, the relationship, the car, the big practice, the rooms rented out, I'm like, that's what I want for all of our graduates. When I started hypnotherapy, same thing. I didn't give myself time to build my practice. I had done lots of education, school, college, and then post-grad studies. And I was like, okay, I've chosen hypnotherapy as my career. It chose me, like you. There was a voice right in my face. I had 2 years of traditional medical school training. I was about to be a doctor of internal medicine, and this voice said, you're going to hypnotherapy school. You're going to be a hypnotherapist. Like, no, I'm an acupuncture school. And the voice like, no, you're going to be a hypnotherapist. And then I'm doing both schools simultaneously. I was like, wow, hypnotherapy is everything I was looking for to heal the mind, to heal the body, the spirituality, the success programming, all this stuff. And so I graduate or do lots of training. And then when it was time to do my practice, I realized I need to do it, not a whole lot of money, but at the time it was, I needed $4,000 a month to just pay my bills. And so I said, all right, how many clients do I have to see? And I was only charging like $65 a session at the time. So that was, I needed like 20 clients a week or something. So I set a goal. Within 1 month, I will see 25 full paying clients per week. And within 3 weeks, I had all those people lined up. Then I just kept raising my rates for not those clients, but for the new clients. And eventually I'm charging, it took a while to get there, but $230 a session. I charge more now, which is of course, but my point is, when I hit the ground running, like you and other graduates, the success happened right away. What I see is when graduates take their time, then they don't always, some do, of course, but some just, they're like, oh, I have some money saved, I can wait, I can go slow. My experience is if you know how to make the phone ring, you know how to make the phone ring, right? If you know how to get people contacting you, you can, I don't want to say should, but you can build a practice within a month or two, because we have a relatively high turnover rate anyway. I would say the average client comes about 4 times. Some, you see them once, that's it. Others come for months and months. But if average is about 4, you need to know how to get the new people coming in anyway. So, what are your thoughts about just getting that phone to ring, getting people? You obviously believe in yourself. It's a major mental component that got you started off on the right track. But how do you get that phone to ring?
So very interesting. So one thing that I did straight away, because I wanted to learn how to communicate. I was a nurse, right? I didn't know how to communicate business. I didn't know how to do business. And I wanted to do mainstream hypnotherapy. I didn't want to go to the holistic thing. I wanted to just dive into people who needed it, which people who aren't aware, which I call now speaking to the caterpillars, right? When you speak to the caterpillars and they understand that they're already becoming a butterfly, that's fantastic. But if you speak to the butterflies, they're like, yeah, life's, they're flying around. So I speak to the caterpillars. So the first thing that I did was I joined a mainstream networking group called BNI, Business Networking Internet, right? And I learned how to get up in 1 minute, 45 seconds to 1 minute, and explain what I do in a very concise way. And for me, it was such a beautiful way to do that because it pushes you. You have to find creative ways to explain in a very concise time. And then you get them and they understand and they're curious, and then they're going to ask you more questions. So one of the first things that I did was join BNI. I just had this conversation online in a hypnotherapy forum. Oh, BNI didn't do anything for me. It's expensive. It's not cheap. It's $600 a year. Plus you have to pay a room fee. So it could be up to $1,000 a year to be in BNI. And it can be expensive, but you have to believe that you're going to make it. In BNI, for the last 4 years, I have $20,000+ a year just from referrals from my BNI chapter.
Mm-hmm.
20, because I believed. In the beginning, it wasn't so much, but I always made my ROI, my rate of return was always more than what I put into it. But I believed in it. I am the only hypnotherapist in this region for BNI in Orlando because there is this belief that I can't invest. I'm not making the money. So you have to believe that you can make the money, for one. So networking, I did a lot of free talks. You have to be out there. I get paid to speak now, which is a real blessing. It's in gratitude, right? But since COVID, I went back to doing a lot of free online material. I gave a lot away, and it's helped me keep my business. That's why I stayed at 8 or 9, because I did a lot of newsletters. I did a lot of online Facebook lives, etc., to try and keep it out there, to give information so people will come to you. And I sent letters or texts to my clients that I knew might be needing me at this point. A lot of my addicts really needed me. But it's really about getting out there and believing and learning how to communicate what you do in a very concise way.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. So let me recap that. Then I want to share your website. We'll do a little screen share for just a moment. So the right mental attitude, obviously, because we're hypnotherapists, we believe in that, of course. And then doing, like I always tell our graduates and our students when they go through the training, find 7 things you can do very successfully. So I'm hearing it. Then I recommended it for sure. I had a lot of success with networking. So networking groups, public lectures, your internet presence. So I'm hearing 3 so far. We don't have to have all 7, but that is what I encourage. But as we're doing the class, maybe we could fill in some of those little gaps for other students about things we do. Yeah, while maybe you're thinking of that, let me take a moment for some screen share. And in case people don't know, I have actually all of our websites, including yours, Rene, popped up. This is the school's main website, and I'm going to thank one of our students who's here who made a very generous offer to let a team of programmers who work for him in India to work for us. And we were able to get all work almost, or not quite almost done, but we're getting towards the end, 80% done, getting all of the school's curriculum onto this website in a new, very high-end learning management system. So that's exciting. So thank you again to that student who's here. And then this is our older website, which is the current student portal. The IAIH is our association. And just to let people know a little bit more about Rene, she's one of our main presenters. The conference obviously is postponed due to COVID, but as soon as we can, we're getting back in that room together because it's such a great experience. So Rene is, where is she? There's Rene. She was going to talk, she will eventually talk to us about, oh, there you go, about learning to, what to listen. So learn to listen literally. We're talking about learning how to speak and present yourself, learning how to listen to your body. The body's always talking. So that's coming up as soon as we can get there. And then one of my new projects, the Anahat teachings actually I've been doing since 1996, but the new project is onlinemonastery.com. As Rene was talking about energy moving through, that's a lot of what this is all about. So if anybody's interested, thank you to one of our students who helped to make this little 6-minute video. And then we have the full 2.5-hour introduction. And there's a little, and this is all free, by the way, at least right now. So take advantage of it while you can. And then this is Rene's website. And let me point out a couple of things to plug Rene, but also we're talking about how do you succeed in this field. I always tell our graduates, use your name, market yourself, right? So here's Rene, Brent, hypnosis.com, because she is the product. And I'd love to hear you comment on that, Rene. There's a very clear call to action, right? Call today. I was looking on the website and on every page, right? Call today. It's very clear. Online session available. Schedule an appointment.
Big red schedule button. I use that all the time. I tell my clients, if you want to do it, there's a big red schedule button, and it makes it very easy for them.
Yeah, a really clear call to action about what to do for sure. And you're there. You're the product. Absolutely. And then, of course, workshops and your addiction work. So yeah, let's go back. I just want to show everybody that. And okay, yeah. So yeah, talk to us more about success or other things you do.
So one of the other things that I knew straight away is that I had to have a professional website, right? Which I update regularly, and I spend the money. In the beginning, I did it all myself, but I do have an IT guy that I like, who's very reasonable. He's in Las Vegas, and he helps me out. and he puts all my links and whatever questions that I need. So SEO is very important to learn a little bit about marketing. You don't have to pay someone in the beginning, but you should know what helps you and what doesn't help you, and keywords, what keywords mean. There are a lot of free material online about how to set up your website so you can be seen online when people do searches, and what people are looking for online for searching, right? They don't necessarily look for hypnotherapists. They don't know that word yet, but they do look for hypnosis and weight loss or whatever. So you have to understand that. I do a lot of Google ads. I do spend money. I don't do print work. I did a little bit of print work in the beginning, and I didn't get money. I don't think people really choose a hypnotherapist because they see an ad in a local paper. So that was my experience. It could be different in different areas, but I did Google ads, and I wanted to have it pop up, and that's what they do. Now when people say, oh, how did you find me? They go, oh, I Googled you and you were top of the page. And I was like, great, wonderful. Or it was meant to be. Or on Facebook, they like, I was thinking about hypnosis and all of a sudden your ad came up. Well, it's designed that way. It's the way they do it, right? If you have an interest in it, they're going to follow you. So, but I was like, fantastic. It must be meant to be, right? Not manipulation. You just utilize, right? And so Google ads, I do that. Also, I always wanted to do videos, but I never did them. I did a lot of online work, but through COVID, which was such a blessing, that I did for a while, every Friday, I was doing a 1-hour session online, and I got a really nice following. And I started recording those and then putting them on YouTube. So I do have videos on my YouTube channel, Rene, Brent Hypnosis, if anyone wants to check that out. So that's been a real blessing through all of this. And there's a way when you put it on YouTube to make sure that it connects to your website so you get the SEO for Google. It's just learning. I know it can be very overwhelming, but you have to get out there. And writing, I do podcast interviews. I do a lot of online work with people, and my book is still out there and circulating, and that helps me to bring people in.
Yeah, thank you. I love that you basically do everything you possibly can, is what I hear. Because I read a book back when I was getting into my own practice called Guerrilla Marketing. And the idea was you just slam the market with tons of ads. So I had the same experience where people would say, oh my God, it was like God was just, I would see you here, then I would see you here. I'm like, we had just advertised a lot. And, God is leading you to me, sure. But, I'm just, I'm out there. I'm glad you mentioned the pay-per-clicks. I always encourage our students, learn how to do it or pay someone to do it, but do it because you pay to be right on the top of Google. And it might cost $3 to $5, maybe more, depending on the search term you're using. But like you said, there's a good return on the investment. I can't do it anymore, but in the past, I've helped graduates to set up their pay-per-click, and they've been able to quit their jobs just by having the phone consistently ringing. If you have like 100 people, let's say just 100, search for it, for hypnosis, and you pop up right there, about 3 to 5% are going to click on that. So 5 people go to your website out of 100, and then of those, usually if you have a good website like yours, maybe, I don't know, a percentage of those, let's say even 50%, can call you, right? So with pay-per-click, you could just have, it depends how much you're putting into it, but 2, 3, 4 clients even a week in an area like Orlando, just consistently calling you, and there's no competition because you just get 3% of the 100, right? And then someone else can get 3% of the 100. So there's plenty to go around. Back in the day when I was running my full practice, the first 3 years, I tried a lot of print media advertising, but I started in '97, so there really, for me, was no internet. I did it all very grassroots, on the ground. And yeah, the ads were expensive, and they didn't yield as good of a result. But I learned a lot about advertising by doing that. Now that things have gone online, yeah, if you're just willing to, so I think you probably listed 7 different things you do now, but there's your website, there's social media, there's YouTube, there's pay-per-click, there's SEO, there's willing to pay someone, right? So I like the model, intelligent people hire people more intelligent than they are, right? So you have an IT guy, even though you learned a lot yourself and you're studying this yourself. Now, it's just such a nice, a beautiful example of the right mental attitude that leads to success. And I would love to have locations. We've been doing the school now for 12 years, and we've done trainings on North Carolina, Dallas, Utah presence is growing, California now, Florida. Yet it's honestly so hard to find somebody like you who I'm willing to let teach our curriculum, who's running a successful practice, who believes in herself, who's confident, who I can say is just a powerful together woman. And
Ah.
yeah, for the school's growth, we want more locations around the country, but I'm not willing to let somebody who doesn't have the experience or the confidence, whatever it takes to get there. So, it's always been an open invitation for all of our graduates. I don't pick people really. I just say, you can be a director of our school. Somebody like you who's seeing as full of a client load as you want. To me, you're only doing a third. I was seeing 20 to 30 a week
Oh, no.
in my prime, my full-time practice. Yeah, when I get somebody who's, doing like 15 like you were doing before COVID, 15 clients per week. And then, so when you're doing a six-figure income, plus, we pay you obviously to teach our students, and it's some really nice extra money. I'm sure to supplement your really, really nice income. So that's an
Helps pay for the
invitation.
Tesla. Thanks, Matthew.
Exactly. Yeah. I won't get into my whole luxury car addiction, but I get it. There's something really beautiful about living that prosperous, abundant life. It's not the things you have, right? But it's really how many clients you see per week is what it comes down to. When I'm seeing,
it's belief.
Mhm.
It's belief. And this is the thing. There can be months, Matthew, when I'm like, oh, wait a minute.
Mhm.
I don't have that many clients booked, right? Like I need, and I have bills that I pay for, right? So, and I'll tell David, I'm like, oh, David, I haven't had that many calls lately. And he just looks at me and he smiles and he says, well, what are you gonna do about that? And then I know that I'm getting in my own way. If my phone stops ringing, I know that I'm putting something out there. Let's talk about psychic marketing. I'm putting something out there that's blocking that. So I need to check myself, return to the why I'm doing what I'm doing, and then the phone will start ringing. And then he laughs at me at the end of the month when I'm like, hey, I brought in a record amount of money. Wow. And so we have a good laugh about that. But even this many years later, I have to be aware that I can get in my own way, and I just have to learn. So it's really about belief and trusting the skills that we're giving in this work to be able to get out of our own way and believe that. One other thing that I want to say about getting people in the door is location, and signage. I chose an area. I was blessed to find this space on a main area in Maitland, which is in Orlando. And it's very busy. I wouldn't want to live in this area because it takes me forever to get out of onto the street. But I cannot tell you, I have a big sign, understanding hypnosis in the subconscious mind. It says Rene Brent little, and then hypnosis big, black and white. People get stuck in traffic. I can't even tell you through the years how many people are like, I was just thinking about this hypnosis thing, and I look up and there's your sign, hypnosis, and they call me. I can't even tell you how many clients I got that way. So having a professional space, having a professional signage, and being in a good location where your sign can be seen really has paid off for me through the years.
That's awesome. I've heard that from other graduates as well. I've seen that, where they're actually pay somebody, like can be small billboards outside in that area, and they'll just pay to get some signage and whatever it takes to get that drive-by traffic. And yeah, for sure. I've always been concerned about being too storefront-ish, right? That clients would just walk in. Do you ever have people just walk in your office off the street?
Occasionally, but never underestimate that. So I had this guy who was walking, and I was teaching that weekend. Actually, it was a Friday, and he came and knocked on the door. And so I was like, oh, okay, hello. And to be honest with you, we kind of looked like a bum. He looked like he was like a homeless person. So I was talking to him about the work, and I was like, yeah, if you want to, I'm teaching right now, but if you want to, you can go to my website, schedule button, schedule a free 15-minute call, which I do. By the way, if anybody who's listening wants to have a chat or clarification of anything I said, you can go to that website, Rene Brent Hypnosis, and just push the schedule button and book a free 15-minute call with me. I'd love to chat with you and get to know you. But there was something about him. I trusted him, and I said, okay, here it is. Here's my card. Give me a call or book it. he ended up being very, very, very wealthy man who walked because he liked the exercise, very frugal. He was a client of mine for maybe almost a year. He loved the work, came in frequently, and he paid top dollar. So never underestimate who you're talking to, because you just don't know the power. And who he knew and he would send to me was an incredible. And it's only because he did walk in and I was okay with that. But mostly people just call and they can Google it easy.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I want to hear, so first let me say to everybody who's watching, I want to open to question and answer soon. We've gone for almost an hour and a half. We usually only go 2 hours max in these classes. So if you have questions, start typing them out or just get them in the chat pod. We'll look at them very soon. While we're doing that, since you're talking about really great client sessions, I want to hear two things. You can go whatever order you like. One is well, I guess you kind of share what is your personal experience of hypnotherapy. How has it changed your life? I think we made that really clear.
Yeah.
But if you have something you want to share about what it was like for you as a client, but more importantly, I'd love to hear your best client session that pops in your mind. Like what's your favorite client, the one transformation you'll never forget? It's probably right in your mind right now as I mentioned it. Who's like that one person, that one session that was made this so worth being in this profession?
Well, wow, that's hard to do. But I'm gonna talk about my most recent addiction client, a 35-year-old who had a drinking problem, and I had worked with him about a year ago on procrastination, but he didn't want to. Very successful entrepreneur, by the way, for his age, but he didn't want to work on the alcohol. I'm like, okay, because we follow our clients where we are. And I gave him some tips around it. And I said, I'm always here for you. And he did great. He wrote a book in that year. He hired an assistant. He tripled his business, doing great. But during COVID, the alcohol really was, and he had a very wealthy client who he got drunk in front of, who said, our relationship is over if this shit continues. And it woke him up. And he did a 4-day with me recently. And I have to tell you, I have to cry when I think about him, because he just each day, in my 4-day intensive is they come in each day, a half day, 2 half days and 2 full days with me. And we just do breath work in parts, and we do all this hypnotherapy, boom, 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 within a day, which is so fantastic, because one thing comes up and then bam, we're at it, and then we're at it, and we're at it. So they're shifting emotionally, energetically, and neurologically when we're doing it. This works. It's fantastic. But he really understood the work and really got to some core issues about himself. And the look on his face whenever he would come up from a session, and he would look at me and he goes, Rene, I had no idea. And thank you. And thank you for being here for me, to hold space for me. And he has not taken one drink. And it was his birthday, the weekend that we did it. And he went out with friends. And he did not drink one thing. I had no issues for it. And he wrote me this beautiful referral. And it said to him, thank you, Rene, for saving my life, not my physical life, but saving the life that I was meant here on this earth to experience. Wow. And he said, I would have paid 10 times the amount. This is because it's not about money. He said, money spends once, knowledge and heart lasts forever. Yeah. And to have somebody wake up, this is why I say hypnotherapy, we have the best seat in the house. We have a front row seat to people getting it, to understanding there's so much waiting for them. This is with all my clients. This is why I never worked harder in my life, but I love every minute of it. And for him to understand his truth, that he could experience the life he was meant to and still have abundance and still have joy and develop a healthy relationship with himself and others is remarkable. So I never regret 1 minute in school or 1 minute that I spend in my office, because I get to see that.
Yeah, it can be hard, right? It can be a lot of work to sit there and hold space, especially what you're doing, these very long, multiple day client sessions. Yet to hear a story like that just reinforces how beautiful it is for me to talk to you and see the spirituality, the heart opening, the engagement, the blessings for your daughter, your family, the career success, the finances, the Tesla. but really the best of all, and then teaching our students. So, the ripple effect is huge from one person. I like to talk about how we had a guy named Buddha sat under a tree, and now there have been, God knows how many since then, but millions upon millions of Buddhists who have practiced a more peaceful way of life from one healer, from one, great being. And I see you just like sending all this love out. I guess what's most meaningful for me is to hear your client experiences. As much as it's wonderful to see you're being blessed, and maybe more wonderful to see our students getting out there, because that's a huge ripple effect. But knowing that this is happening all over the country, around the world, you're doing international, we can do that relatively easily now because of the internet. So to see that ripple effect is remarkable. I'm sure you could tell us about, I don't know if you recorded your hours, how many clients you've seen or how many hours you've logged.
Oh, I haven't done that in a while. I haven't done that in a while, especially because you do 2 hours. It adds up. The hours that we sit in the chair for 8 years, right? 7.5 years. It's incredible. I have tend to see families because I didn't see children in the beginning, and I just wrote this chapter in this book about breaking the worry agreement. It's the book I'm about ready to finish, my second book. So excited about. But it's about children and worry. And Ruth Smith, I'm going to answer that question that you have there in just a minute. But I see children, and I'm so blessed with that. And beautiful Danny Fox helped me with that, gain confidence in that, because she does such great work with children. And I started seeing children, and I would see one child, and then another child in the same family was like, hey, I want to do that. And then the mom's like, oh, maybe I should come in. And then the dad comes in. So I tend to get families that come in. And the greatest story is when, a family texts me and they said, we were having dinner last night and we were discussing, they were like, what would Rene think? And I said back, well, it's not what Rene think. What did Rene help you learn from yourself? And, I have families that say they have me on retainer because they just buy a package of hours and they show up when they want to, which is such a joy to be able to do that and help children make those changes. But it's really blessed work. And that's why I teach. That's why I love to teach. And I know Danny loves to teach because we are a part of that, helping people believe in this work. And the work that I did in the beginning is not the work I'm doing now, of course, because I've grown as a person. I've grown in my skill set and my confidence. But I understood that even in the beginning, that there was such great protocol and quality that they were able to move anyway. So I don't feel bad about that. And it's very important when you do this work is not do your own work so you don't take on responsibility for your clients. I had 2 siblings that died from alcohol and drug abuse at 52, both of them, each separately. And I don't judge addiction. But I don't take it on because I know if they don't stay sober, then that's their lesson to walk. And I do everything that I can to help them, but I don't take it on for them. But it's blessed. It's fantastic work. I feel so grateful every day.
Yeah, working
and
with
to you, Matthew. Thank you.
Thank you, Rene. I'll read Ruth's question for everybody, and then let's have you respond. Ruth said to you, do you have any experience with veterans thinking of PTSD and suicidal tendencies? Any special, unique strategies?
So first of all, I do tend to work with anxiety, but I get referrals from those, like we should as any hypnotherapist for anything diagnosed. But I tend to get people who do have PTSD, a lot of fears and phobias and anxiety. But I have great relationships with physicians and psychiatrists. And a lot of that comes from being out there and about. I'm doing a presentation next Friday for a pediatric office for their caregivers. She sends me, she's a holistic pediatrician, and through the years, she sent me a lot of clients, and I'm going to do a presentation for her. So it's really about, in order to do that work easier to get referrals, is to have a relationship with physicians. My nursing life does help me with that. But the techniques that I tend to use from that is you have to be very present and be able to read your client, and you don't want to push them too hard. Matthew taught me in the beginning, slow down, just slow down. We don't want to push. We don't want to move anybody into their panic zone, especially someone who has PTSD, right? But I teach a lot of neuroscience in the beginning of my clients, veterans, or with people with PTSD. If they have suicidal tendencies, by the way, I don't treat them. I will not put them in the state of hypnosis. I will send them to psychiatrists, and then when the psychiatrist is ready and feels them more stable, then they come back to me. But we should never, ever, ever put anybody in your chair in the state of hypnosis who is suicidal in any way.
Mhm.
And I am not afraid to ask my clients if they feel really down, if they're suicidal.
Mhm.
As a nurse, as my nursing license is on, but as a hypnotherapist, and we have to ask. And if they are, don't do it, because you never want someone to experience hypnotherapy, go kill themselves. And that's what the news has, is that someone killed themselves after hypnotherapy. It'd be horrible for our reputation as things. So take it slow down, right? Teach them about neuroscience, build belief. This is what we learn in the beginning of the school, is you build belief. You must have them understand there's something on the other side of this. No one is going to get sober. No one is going to let go of anxiety or PTSD if they don't believe there's something on the other end of that. So that's what I do in the front end of that, through NLP, through hypnotherapy, light hypnotherapy. You don't want to get them right back into it straight away. So it's really about protocol, and all that is done through the school and what I've learned.
Thank you.
Hope that
Thank you.
answers.
Yeah, that's great. We can see if that answered it for Ruth. I love the answer, especially because you talked about working with physicians, working with psychiatrists, not being afraid of that. Hypnosis law, we always encourage people to abide by Florida hypnosis law. You don't work with somebody with a diagnosed condition without the proper referral. I had a student recently email me about a psychologist whose patient said, yeah, I'd like to go do hypnosis with this graduate of the school. And the psychologist said, absolutely not. You shouldn't be in hypnosis. And the graduate said, what can I do about that? I'm like, nothing. Like, that's the law.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody who's licensed to deal with those conditions said this patient shouldn't be using hypnosis, then you can work to have the patient get a second opinion. But if not, like, we abide by hypnosis law. So it's great to hear. And it's also great to hear, of course, the networking with physicians and mental health providers, because that's a great way to get clients. And that list of 7 things to do, and you're doing lunch and learns, that type of stuff. I did that a lot in my practice. I taught our students to do that. Get into medical settings. Don't be afraid of interacting with medical professionals, but see yourself as that. Great. So yeah, Ruth said thanks. I'll read the next question.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on having friends or anyone that you're close to as clients? That's a good one.
Well, it really depends on the friend, doesn't it? Beautiful Danny and I have switched out and do work with each other. Rebecca Zayas is in my practice. She rents space from me. She was a student about almost 4 years ago, hard to believe. And so she rents space. So sometimes we'll work on each other. If one thing that I will not do is I won't work on my own children, because if they come up with some issue, right, we know that you're imprinted when you're younger than 10. I happened to be their mother when they were younger than 10. So I don't want them to avoid anything that, perception of that when working with me. So if my kids through the years, I have sent to Danny or to Rebecca, to, another hypnotherapist through the school, to work on that. But it depends also. In the beginning, I did it on friends. I did some sessions with friends, and I didn't charge them, which there wasn't any exchange. And I found that they didn't respond as well. So if I had to do it all over again, and I tell my students this, is that do some kind of exchange, some barter, some low, maybe you pass back the $50 or the $100 back and forth if you're doing work with each other, and go from there. But you really, again, have to listen to yourself. Again, your body's always talking to you. We have a no, which is constricting, and we have a yes. If you just listen and tune into that, then you're going to understand if that's the right client for you or not. I just had a client who's not a friend, but he called me up, and there was something about this guy, and I was like, no, I wouldn't take him on as a client. So never be afraid to say, no, I'm not taking you on as a client. It's very important for your success and your state of well-being to be able to set that boundary.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I said when I responded back to that student, I've said this many times about don't be afraid to say no to a potential client. No, what I got for me during my practice is I was seeing about 25 people a week. The program I gave to myself is no one client will ever make or break me. And the attitude of I don't need you makes it so easy, to the potential client, makes it so easy to say, I'm not coming from desperation while we're talking, right? And then, I had somebody recently, it was a son of a student, I won't say much for confidentiality, but he was like, I don't know, I'm just kind of here because my mom wants me to be here. And I was like, buddy, I don't need to see you. Like, I'm here for you. If I can help you, I'm honored to. But that I don't need you attitude, even if you're just starting your practice and you're like, oh God, I need this person so I can pay the bills. Let go of that thinking and just move into the, I don't need this person. And you tend to attract a lot more to you.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
With my addiction work, I screen them heavily,
Hmm.
and I have to take you on as a client. I'm not going to take everyone on, and
Hmm.
it's nice for me. It's $1,000 a day I charge, to see someone.
Hmm.
It's a good chunk of change, but if I don't feel like they're ready, I'm not going to waste their time or my time. Mel asked, why didn't you take on that client? There was more to what he was saying, and I understood it. My instinct that he was going to be very problematic,
Hmm.
probably had some deep mental issues, and I said no,
Hmm.
out of
Okay.
my scope.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Good
I
for
didn't even
listening to
offer
him.
him to get a referral. I knew there was something going on with him. My little spidey sense, my
Hmm.
gut instinct, right, said no, so I didn't take him on.
Yeah.
And I have turned away clients for addiction
Hmm.
because somebody else wanted them to do it and they weren't ready.
Yeah, it's so good to hear that because it's just not worth taking on a client who's going to ruin your reputation, cause a lawsuit. I mean, yeah, you just don't need that kind of drama. If you can see as many clients as you want per week without that drama, no problem. I said to the student who emailed me recently about that theme, said we generally help the able to become more able. So if there's somebody who's really, really dysfunctional, there's other type of mental health providers out there. We don't have to feel that we have to help every single client or every single friend. Right? There's a lot, and we've had about 1,000 people or so go through our training area. There's a lot of like you, very well qualified graduates out there. So if I feel like I don't want to work or can't work with somebody, whatever, there's so many people are referred to have really good credentials.
Oh yeah, I send people out for other reasons to Danny or to Rebecca or whoever.
Mm-hmm.
Some other people that are in the area, I'll send them out. But I don't apologize to anybody for not taking
Mm-hmm.
them on. Now, I want to suggest that if you're doing this work, it's great to have a good referral base around where you are. So physicians or psychiatrists or psychologists. Therapists, because if you rent them out, if you send them referrals, guess what's going to happen? They're
Mm-hmm.
going to send you referrals back too. And so don't underestimate that. And people, I give them a choice between, I don't say this person, I'll give them a couple opportunities to change, but I do have therapists that I will refer to them. I have two therapists two part-time and one full-time therapist that work, that rent from my space. And then Rebecca, who's a hypnotherapist.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Thank you, Renee. I'll read our
Mm-hmm.
next question.
Okay.
It says, question, with the growth of new age and so many online sources like Joe Dispenza, meditations, and books where people can use these techniques to change their life, what other elements does it bring to the table to make it more valuable than these other sources for clients? How can we show the difference to people who are unaware of hypnosis therapy?
Great question, by the way, Matthew. So very important for you, when I said in the beginning, is that you learn how to discuss your style of hypnotherapy, right? Because we all have the protocol within the school, but when you come out into your own practice, you're going to develop your own way of communicating. Your own verbiage within that structure of the protocol. So it's very important to understand that there is no comparison between private work and understanding and having someone speak to their inner child than a general thing selling someone, and now you're going to meet your inner child and you're going to ask. There's a big difference between go finding the little inner child who was hurt, who was left alone, who felt sad, not good enough. There's a huge difference in the private. So it's very important to get very confident in that difference and being able to communicate that to your clients on the phone, right? I happen to have if they're calling me, I'm booking about 90% of the time with my clients. And I keep track of it because I have a spreadsheet that's phone consults. And so I write a little bit about because I do a lot of phone consults, and then I write a little bit about, and then I go back and see if they booked or not. So I know right now I'm about 90%. That's because I spent a lot of time crafting what I want to say to one and the power of what we do when someone's in the chair privately. There's a big difference. So it's really about getting comfortable with that and the difference, because if I can talk to someone's part that is the addict, right? That's a lot different than talking in a general form. It's a lot different to talk to the inner child who believes they're worthless, because it's very hard to stay sober or live without fear and live in love if you believe you're worthless and not good enough. And the way we do that is getting to them privately. I hope that answers your question, Matthew.
Yeah, that was a guest named Matthew.
I know. Yeah, I knew that. I knew that. Yeah.
Yeah, let me respond as a Matthew to Matthew's question
Okay.
as well. Yeah, when I got into this, before I found hypnotherapy, I was all into self-help type of stuff. Where I learned Reiki and meditation, yoga, Tai Chi. I was chatting with Hare Krishnas, like all this stuff. I was doing everything I get my hands on. And it was all great. Yet what I discovered, and then of course I was in Chinese medical school, so acupuncture, herbology, massage. It's this subconscious mind, though, that can just remain stuck in patterns that no matter what you do, you can sit and meditate and be with let's say you just feel with grief. You can sit and be with that and try every self-help technique, or you can just go get one really powerful hypnotherapy session, and that's just cleared. It's the difference between like trying, and I use the word intentional, trying in your own, I'm going to breathe into it, I'm going to pray about it. It's like, but there's, like you said, deep-seated programming, negative beliefs in the subconscious that just don't really go away, negative emotions that keep coming up, and you're like, I don't know why I can't move through this. I have so many people, I'm sure you've seen this, Rene, come to us and they say, I've tried everything, right? Doctors, dentists, chiropractors, acupuncturists, I have done everything. And when they come to us, they usually feel quite hopeless, right? And they actually are convinced they can't be healed. And, it's like I'm now giving the example. It's like, imagine having a broken car, but you go to the dentist and that didn't fix your car. And you go to the tennis instructor and that didn't fix your car. And by the time you even creep into the car mechanic with your barely moving car, you say, like, I don't think you can fix it either because nobody else could fix it. And he's like, give me 10 minutes. And that's what I feel like with my clients, that, a lot of people come to us. I'm curious in your thoughts about this, where it seemed like a last resort. If people only knew how powerful their mind is, not was, but is, how powerful the subconscious is, and how one significant change, like for you were going through a divorce, you came into the school, you did some sessions with me, it changed your whole being. I don't think people really get just how effective this work really is.
Right. And that's why it's so important to communicate that and really be present with your client. I love it when my clients come in and tell me, you're my last resort. I've tried everything. I'm like, awesome. I wish you would have come here first.
Yeah.
I say it silently. I don't say that to them. This is a story about a client who had an issue in her life and is such a deep sadness. And she had been going to the same therapist for, 3 years. She had started trying some alternative stuff like acupuncture, and she found my name and she came to me. And after our first session, 2 hours, I did eye movement work. I did some other work with her, and she opens her eyes and she's crying and, being very Matthew, give me, what's going on. Give me a report of what's happening. And she said, Rene, I feel like I have been driving on a highway with no exit ramps. And now I see that exit ramp, and that exit ramp is labeled hope. And she's just crying. And I cried with her, because what an incredible opportunity for us as hypnotherapists to give someone an off-ramp to the same thing they've been going down for so many years. It's really beautiful to be able to do that for somebody, to hold space for them to do that. That's the difference between listening to an online meditation and having someone in your space privately.
That, and you're touching upon maybe a sensitive topic that you want to go into. It wasn't just an online meditation with her, right? It was a therapist, a professional who might have 7 years of schooling. So, with all due respect to other, let's say the mental health profession, I'll have clients frequently like that come in and say, I've been seeing my talk therapist, this traditional talk therapy for a year, 2, 3, and I'm not getting really anywhere in a sense. And then they come to us in one session, their mind is blown. What's been your experience of the difference between what I call traditional therapy versus hypnotherapy?
I think it depends on the therapist. This is what I've learned. When I got when I went through my divorce, and when people go through something like a near death or a divorce or illness, their subconscious tends to be a little bit more open anyway. So the therapist doesn't have to work as hard to get you in, to drop you into your subconscious mind. And I very clearly remember when I started closing back up in my divorce, and she said to me one day, she said, Rene, it doesn't help you to wrap it up in a bow and hand it to me. And I realized she didn't know what to do with that. She didn't know how to get me from here to my heart. She didn't know. And I stopped seeing her because I was doing my own inner work consciously, not subconsciously. Then I went to another therapist who was so good at when she understood felt sense, that feeling. She understood. She goes, what are you feeling right now? She could read it, drop into that. She was a therapist. And she dropped me in, and then I could understand what was happening. And then I did some deep inner work, right? Because when we drop into the felt sense, we drop in it. But if you don't have a therapist that knows how to do that, then you're doing all your work consciously. And I tell people it's like the sperm. It has to hit it a lot of time to get something through to make greatness, even to make change. But so it's really the therapist and their ability to help you drop into the subconscious mind.
Yeah, thank you. So it's not necessarily even the modalities you're trained in, right? It's who you are. And obviously part of why I wanted you on our show, if you want to call it that, is because of who you are. So I like how you said, like somebody said to you, what would Rene think? One of our graduating classes, they always, we usually get gifts from our students, and we all got bracelets, and ones that said, what would Matthew do? And I'm like, that's so cool. So if anybody has more questions, please type them in. While we're waiting for that and getting towards the end of class time, I just want to speak briefly to, because like we said, it's not so much the modalities you're training in, it's who you are. Although I'm going to definitely say hypnotherapy with someone like you, great equation, right? Like you would do great in the fields of traditional psychotherapy. So what is it that makes you such a great role model? Do you meditate? Do you pray? Like what do you exercise? What do you do that helps you to thrive? That's one of your great words, and just to shine every day.
So I do meditate, and I can feel a difference if I don't meditate. And I switch that around. Sometimes I do longer. Sometimes I do shorter. I'm a big Joe Dispenza fan, that he's got, 45-minute hour ones. Sometimes I just listen to music. Sometimes I do headspace, right? I practice all the modalities that I tell my clients to. One thing I'm doing right now is heart math. They have a great little app that you put on your ear and you breathe. I started doing that. A client was using it, and she was so beautiful. She bought me one as a present so I can experience it, so I can show my teens. Teens really respond to heart math, and it's easy, and you go into the state. So I switch it around. It depends on what I do. I do exercise, and I really pay attention. This is what I teach my clients. I listen to my body. If my body is tense and I'm feeling that I'm not in coherence, then I know that I have to do some of my own work. But it's really about being present, being the observer of your life. And if I feel like my heart's closing or I'm edgy, then I know I need to do my own work. Maybe I need a breathwork session. Maybe I need to do something else. But it's really just about paying attention without judgment, right? We're so judgy, and it's really about releasing. I learned to leave judgment a long time ago on myself. And I have a lot of fun. I use humor every single day. I laugh a lot, and I laugh in my room with my clients, because humor is such a beautiful way to break, first of all, patterns, to pattern interrupt somebody in their sadness, but also to understand that there's hope beyond these walls and this experience. And I do that every day. I share my stories, and I live in gratitude.
Yeah, and there is an exit to the highway that you're stuck in and all that pain, right? So
yeah.
you're
Look at Tammy. Tammy, beautiful Tammy. Hi, baby.
Should we read what Tammy wrote?
Yeah.
That one?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I'll do it.
Yeah.
She says, thank you, Rene. Blessed to have been your student. You changed my whole being. Such an amazing hypnotherapist and strong, empowering, beautiful person. Feeling much gratitude. Yeah, Renee,
That makes me want to cry.
yeah, me too. We love you, Renee, and we're so grateful for. I know when students, they train online with me, and then they go to their respective locations, and I trust all of our teachers. And I know it's not even like, but I mean, I trust all of them. But I know when they go to you, it's like, wow, they're just coming into this in your space. Like we have a video of me. It's still in our training, hypnotizing one of the students there. More of a stage hypnosis show.
Uh-huh.
It's
Uh-huh.
still in the first 4.5 3 hours of our training, and it's your location. And talk about humor. We are laughing our asses
We do.
off. uh,
We do.
her name was Dorothy, but we gave her a new name in hypnosis. It was Barbara Walters, and that
Yes,
was just
yeah.
so much fun. It
Oh
shows
gosh.
the power of the mind. But yeah, just the space you've created there is wonderful. I know whenever our students go to any of our locations, but I know if they're in Orlando, they're in really good hands. So we're working really hard, as the whole world is, to find a way to get all of our students back in-house. We have a lot of enrolled students already to go in-house and
Mhm.
train with you and meet you. We're going to do it no matter what, one way or not no matter what.
Yeah.
One way or another, we're going to create a safe way to get all of our currently enrolled students through the training with you. And then we're still enrolling for our June 24th class. That's actually getting quite full. We're not doing June in Orlando, that's just a Tampa
Mm-mm.
location with Danny Fox. Yet we will be in September, checking in, most likely doing in Orlando, Hollywood, Florida, Tampa, and then somewhere out in California with me. And we also have a wonderful Utah location with our great director, Andrew Green, who are working to get that going strong. And then, yeah, the open invitation for, look at the camera, for any of our graduates. Sincerely, if you've been in practice for at least 3 years, you're not close to one of our main locations, we want to make you another Rene. Like we want you to teach students and make a lot of money and help a lot of people. So anyway, I can extend that to our graduates who are hearing this. Reach out to me. It might be the time for you to say, I'm in another state. I know this material now. I've succeeded. Now I want to help others to succeed. I want to see interpersonal hypnotherapists as directors, instructors, definitely in all 50 states while I'm still alive. And then in this lifetime, I would like to see a lot more of it around the world because look at what's happening. Like Renee, what happened for her, what's happening for her clients and her students. The ripple effect of that is so significant that, I don't know, even if we never go beyond the locations we have, it's still amazing work we've done, but I'm only 47. I want to see at least in this lifetime, at least 30 more years of what we're going to do together. We have
Mm.
this team, Renee, Daniel, Renuka, Andrew, of course, Monica and Susanna, and others. We didn't mention all our supervisors, but we have a really big team of people who are doing amazing work. And this is a very open invitation for anybody who's listening who's gone, only if you've gone through our training. I will never let somebody teach our hypnotherapy if they haven't
Mm.
gone through our training. And that's why, again, we're not as big as we could be. And this stuff is amazing, right? Like, look at Renee. Like, this is amazing stuff. But yeah, like you said, like the slow down, Renee said, I'm not willing to rush this. It has to be quality, or it's just
Mm.
not happening, but it is happening. And, with 1,000 people who have enrolled in our training now, probably about 1,000 who've gone through the training, there's a lot of people out there who are ready to really make this thing grow.
Yeah.
So thank you for Renee to being part of this. Do we have any other questions or comments before we get towards the end of our time? Uh, I'll start to say thank you to Renee, and if something else pops in, we'll cover that. So thank you
Yeah.
for being our guest. I'm glad you're safe
My
and
pleasure.
happy during COVID times and everything else
Yeah.
that's happening in the planet right now. So keep up the beautiful healing work. And yeah, what's the name? So one of your books, How Big Is Your Butt? I think I
Hmm.
wrote the foreword for that, right?
You did. Yeah, it was
Yeah,
beautiful. Thank you for
yeah,
that.
that's cool. And then what's the other book?
Breaking the Worry Agreement.
Uh-huh.
That's a new one about the subconscious worry agreement. And I cover children, relationships, professionalism, body, health.
Yeah, awesome. So they
Hmm.
can find you at reneebrandhypnosis.com. You are open to seeing private clients now online or even in-house. It's nice to
Hmm.
hear somebody going back to in-house. I mean, eventually we're going to do it. So I'm glad you're doing it.
I'm very comfortable. I'm very comfortable with it, and my
Mhm.
clients appreciate it. But again, it all comes back to trusting yourself, knowing yourself. And if you're coming from fear, then it's not the right time for you to bring people back
Uh-huh.
into your
Right.
office or your practice, right? So it's really always about trusting yourself, listening to your body, doing your own work, and creating the life that you really want. Practice happy.
Awesome. Thank you, Renee. Someone said, I was just about to thank you so
Hmm.
much, but which I will. Somebody said, if we haven't started an
I
office
do.
yet, but did our training a while ago, how can we get back into it?
So I would say, all the videos are online. With Matthew again, start reviewing them. Just cover through them, get where you're comfortable. I'm sure there are areas that you were like, "Ooh, I should review that," and just believe in yourself. Know that you can do it. You have the training. It'll come back to you. You have all the necessary ingredients. You have your cards from school. You're ready. You can do it. Especially when you know there are people out there who have 50 hours of training. You can do it. Believe in it. We need you out there. Go, 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 girl.
Thank you, Rene. Yeah, it's, what you're saying, you're constantly saying, believe in yourself, just believe in yourself. We have the same policy still in place. If you're a graduate of the school in good standing, you can go back and repeat the entire training at no charge. So we can't necessarily let you do the in-house practicals because we're still trying to figure out how to get our current students through practicals with COVID, which we will do, of course. So, but repeat our entire training. That's still a policy that anybody can do it for free. There's 20 hours of advertising marketing training in our training that's still there for free. And if you look on our websites where you find the Conscious Community classes, these classes, the past recordings of these, I did 2 classes, that's 4 hours of marketing material, like new marketing material. So all of it is there for free to be able, and then also I always recommend to our graduate students, do hypnotic programming in yourself, right? We have these skill sets, these tools. If you're not doing, I'm saying this to everybody, not just the one person asked, if you're not doing hypnotic programming in you, you miss such a valuable resource. So you can be programming in, I now do what I need to do to succeed. I now make money, I make large amounts of money, I create great wealth. I see 20 full-paying clients per week on or before September 2020. Like, we can program all this stuff in. To me, that's like, to not do that as a big disservice to oneself and to the world, of course, because every single person has the ability to heal other people. I believe that's really why we exist. And some closing words I'll just say for me, very brief, it's become more apparent during COVID and now with all the violence that we're seeing on the planet and around the United States, it's so important that we fulfill our missions, right? It's become more apparent to me. I'm here for that. I came here to teach the Anahat meditation system, plug for onlinemonastery.com, not charging any money for it, so I'll plug it for sure. It's a meditation system that opens our whole beings. I won't go into explaining it all. Like, I know I'm here to do that. I know I'm here to teach hypnotherapy in my books and these classes and whatnot. So I'm just encouraging everybody, like in response to our student graduates question here, realize you're on earth with a purpose and a mission. And Richard Bach, a lot of you probably know his book, Illusions. It says, here's a test. If you want to know if your time on earth is finished yet, if you're still here, it's not done. And so I just find, like, there's like the Buddhist teaching of like, desire being a cause of suffering, not to go too into that. But the idea that we all just want so many things that really are useless journeys. Right? If I could just get the new this, the new that. Like, but what if you're here on earth for one purpose? This reminded me of a Rumi poem where I'll just have a story wrote. It's a story. King, where'd it go? A king sent a man to one of his people in the kingdom to go to a certain country to perform one certain task. The man goes to that country and performs many, many different tasks, but not the one task. Eventually he comes back to the king and says, oh, great king, I went to this country, I did all this stuff. He said, yeah, but you do the one thing I asked you to do? Well, no, but I built hospitals and all this. He's like, but you do the one thing I asked you to do? No, then your trip was wasted, basically. Not to say that our lives are wasted if we do other things. But that story, there's so many stories about we all have a purpose and a mission. And I don't believe, like Rene, I think like, that there's accidents. You were led to hypnotherapy. We were told to do hypnotherapy. It's such a strong calling. And yeah, if it's your calling, if it's your mission, if it's your purpose, and you can go back and repeat the training and do hypnotic programming, get therapy in yourself, then set goals to make whatever you want, 100,000 more per year, be an international best-selling author like Rene, we can do all this stuff. So thank you.
And I want to say, really, in those times when you're doubting yourself, hold on to the why, and it'll get you through the how. It really will.
Yeah, right on. Yep, there's a reason we're here. We all know why we're meant to be of service to others, and we have the means to do it, the how. I'll read this one. You're beautiful, Rene. Thank you so much for gracing us this evening with your gifts and generous, helpful stories. Heard so much great things about you, and so nice to meet you today, even just online for now. And thank you so much, Matthew, for your great work and wonderful teachings. You'll be tired of me thanking you so much each time, but I can't help it. Laughing out loud. So much inspiration here. Many things. Thank you. Thank you. Really. I'm not saying people's names, but thank you. And
Oh, thank you.
no,
Thanks for that.
yeah,
That's sweet.
yeah, definitely.
I'm very
It's
humbled. Thank you.
it's so rewarding to be doing this work. Like I know it while we're just having this conversation. And you know, I do. I get thanks constantly from our students. And I just want everybody to have that experience of being on the giving end. One of my influential teachers, name I won't mention, it's like when you clear your blocks, like your insides just become so sweet, so beautiful. Like you love who you are inside. All you want to do is give that away. Your life becomes about service and love and kindness. When you see what's happening in the news right now, I don't see people really doing, there are people out there, but not on the news, you know, doing that and teaching that. It's just a
Mhm.
reminder for us to get out there and keep doing the work. So thank you so much, Rene, for being our guest tonight, for doing such wonderful work on the planet. And I think I'll stop recording so this recording doesn't go over. Yeah, if there's any last questions, I can speak for myself. I'm here for everybody. I'm sure Rene is too.
Mhm.
Thank you,
I'll hold
everybody.
that.
Have a wonderful night. Keep an eye out for emails and social media whatnot for the next classes coming up. Sunday nights, I do a meditation class. Mondays, this class. And then our next hypnotherapy training in Tampa only and online, of course, starts June 24th, 2020. And then if you want to train online and then with Rene in Orlando, that class should be getting posted for a September start.
September.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. What time on Sunday? Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, 4 p.m. I'm in California, so 4 p.m. Pacific Time, but 7 p.m. Eastern. You can go to onlinemonastery.com. It tells you all about it. You guys, if anybody's doing that, you really should start the online videos before that Sunday class. It's a very advanced meditation system. It's not for everybody. It takes some discipline and some work, but the rewards are absolutely worth it. Totally free right now. And honestly, I'll probably eventually charge for it only so we can take that money and turn it back into marketing dollars to get the word out there. But right now it's completely free, so I can get all the training done. But you really should watch the videos first before attending live class because there's 15 lessons. This current group is on lesson 2. They're 3 weeks in. So good to watch those videos before you attend, but I'm not putting any door on that meeting room. Anybody can attend. They might just not be quite ready for what we're talking about. All right, so thank you all. All right, I'll stop recording. Yeah, we're still here.